Hello, this is Dr. Dave Maslach talking to you about reciprocity.com. The E is written with a 3, and in this particular video, I actually want to talk to you about why is scholarly writing important. So this is part of my Monday Write series where I talk about things. I'm actually a professor of innovation strategy and entrepreneurship, and this whole process or this whole project that I'm doing, the Reciprocity Project, is to help out people particularly in graduate school and in other writers do much better at their writing. This was an issue that I personally had, and I thought I'd scratch my own itch, and at the same time trying to help out other people and making it scalable as much as I possibly can. I'm an engineer, and my background is an engineer, and then I did a PhD in strategy and innovation, so I thought this would be an interesting project to pursue. So why is scholarly writing important? So if you are doing any particular role as a scientist, I consider myself more of a social scientist than anything else. Your job as a scientist is to communicate knowledge and to develop new ideas and to communicate those particular new ideas for the public record. And this is really, really difficult to do. And academic writing is probably the most important part of this entire sort of knowledge generation process. It's really, really tricky to do. And I think that there's 3 different reasons that I think it's tricky to do and why scholarly writing is important. So here I'm defining scholarly writing as sort of the process of converting these ideas that you have in your own head that you observe and communicating it to the public domain. However that might be, and it has to be somewhat rigorous and building on existing knowledge that's out there, right? Depending on the field, it's very different in what you're doing. In my field, there is a lot of analysis, for example, as we're probably boring more on like what you do in sociology or economics. And so we're looking at the existing knowledge that's out there, doing some analysis, and then communicating that analysis and those ideas to the general public. So the first thing that's really important is that science in general is a lot of just basically bookkeeping and keeping track of ideas, documenting these ideas down, and then documenting the sort of analysis that you did and communicating those particular findings. And a lot of it's going to be private, such that you are probably the only person that's ever going to be wanting to read this stuff. Most of it's just kind of little nitty-gritty things that a lot of people just don't care about. But then there's a public portion of it, and you're trying to convert this huge body of private knowledge that you have developed and you've sort of thought about this particular thing and can condense it down into a 30-page document where it is a public sort of presentable thing where you yourself have probably written about 300 pages and converted that down into 30 pages. And so you can communicate that to a general public, right? So keeping and creating records is an important part of this entire process. And that is a job of a scientist, is to do that. And that's why scholarly writing is important, is just for the documentation process of it. The other thing, and I think this is an important reason, is that just ideas and coming up with new ideas is really hard to do. And having this precision and understanding how to write ideas down is a really tricky process because other people out there, your audience doesn't really understand the new idea just yet because it's a new idea, right? They're not going to understand it. They're probably going to be actually kind of scared of it because it is new and novel, and they're going to doubt you. This is an important part of the scientific process, if you didn't know this, is that people are very critical, and they should be very critical of this new idea because you don't want it to get out in the public domain and not be well vetted. So you have to be very critical along the way, and they're going to pick apart this idea. So coming up with the idea and have precision over the idea is really important. And this sort of flows into the third thing, is the language that you use. So simply just changing one thing from one thing to another thing, changing the construct names, for example. What it does in the audience mind, it changes the way that they perceive that particular idea. So I've found, and a lot of people will tell you this in sort of the scholarly world, is just simply changing 1 or 2 words can get people to think about one thing versus another. And that's going to really help you out with communicating your idea, because it has all these implications behind it, right? So we might avoid using one particular word because it's going to bring up all this other literature that people talk about and they think about. For example, if you talk about signaling, people are going to have in their mind, well, signaling theory, right? So this is Michael Spence, talked about this stuff in the 70s. And this is really important. So they're going to have you think about all this sort of signaling theory research. Maybe you should use a different kind of language so you don't necessarily bring up that imagery in their mind. So you might use something like, maybe it's proxy, or maybe it is indicates, or something along those lines that is going to, or it's an indicator, so it's going to avoid the language of that particular thing. So they're not going to bring up all that literature in their mind. And that's really important to think about that kind of stuff. So it's the whole scholarly writing process is incredibly important for the idea generation. So I think that's the important thing. So it's probably the two important things. I listed these particular three reasons, but the two important things, it's really about this idea of coming up with a precise idea, right? So your job is to generate ideas and to communicate that to the world, right? So you have to generate this very precise idea that fits in with the puzzle of what everybody else is doing, so that it makes sense to them, and then it will be sort of diffused a little bit easier in the population. So people will pick up on that idea and identify with it and think, you know what, that's kind of interesting. And that's really what the job of a scientist is coming up with an interesting idea that people are going to run with, and they're going to think, that's quite plausible. Let's go try and test that particular thing. So that's all I wanted to talk about with this Monday Write series. Again, this is all trying to be as helpful as I possibly can for graduate students and writers that are out there. I do try to put this out every single Monday. So check it out, and give me a thumbs up if you like this video, as well as to subscribe to the YouTube channel. I do appreciate it. All right, so take care and have a wonderful day.